Boring. So many Battle Brothers lately just talking mad stuff, telling me I should be soloing on Ruthless and higher. Okay, how are they telling you this? Wait, this is a pretty wild start, but okay, let's continue. Y'all need to go outside and touch grass or stop flexing it on average players. It doesn't help the situation at all. I'm not terrible, I'm not amazing. Y'all acting like they are gonna add ranked into Space Marine 2. Dude, we talked about ranked in PvP before. It's something. I think PvP needs a leaderboard before ranked. Talking meta perks and builds, go back to Call of Duty, get off your high horse and start improving your team skills. Maybe you're amazing, so use it and be a team player instead of running off by yourselves because of your main character mindset. Okay, this this post is saying a lot. However, they do take a little bit of a jab at meta perks, and they definitely mentioned that it seems people are trying to get them to play meta and that they're bad for playing solo on Ruthless. Or, I don't know. They're bad if they don't solo Ruthless. All right. So let's kind of take a little bit of a step back here. And he titles this post boring. So I assume he is referring to meta, maybe. I don't know. This post is a bit wild, but talking about meta perks and builds, go back to Call of Duty. Dude, I don't think meta in this game is like that important. I think like certain meta perks are important, but you can like take those meta perks and build them in a way that is more unique. Like for example, not a lot of people like Marked for Death. I think Marked for Death is very powerful with like bolt rifles. You could use Marked for Death with the regular bolt rifle, the auto bolt rifle, and it's still going to be pretty good. I think most people, when we talk about meta, I think Radiating Impact is a little bit more impactful than Marked for Death. I think Marked for Death does have a pretty hefty cooldown, but so does Radiating Impact. Hey, you know what? Ultimately, you can find uses for pretty much every meta perk to take it a little bit off meta. So I don't think meta is like super important. It really depends though. It really depends. Obviously, like in siege mode, the higher waves you go up, meta is going to become more and more important. But still, you can definitely play around it. Okay, so y'all need to either go outside and touch grass or stop flexing it on average players. I am not too sure what type of situation this guy got into. Like, nobody's gonna brag about playing meta in this game. I don't also like to the point that they're actually trying to make here, I think. Meta being boring. I'm not 100% sure if I agree with that at all. I'm not even like a huge meta enjoyer. So like sometimes here and there, I'll definitely be using some meta builds, maybe some meta perks and stuff like that. Especially in Absolute 2.0. I'll bring Squad Renewal, of course. Purification, of course. But like, dude, I wouldn't call it boring. I'm not too sure. I'm not even too sure why this guy feels the need to say this, but it is pretty interesting how many upvotes this post got. Also, it has like over 150 upvotes, which is pretty cool. Which is okay. It's not really that important to get like a large amount of upvotes on a post. We're going to basically read between the lines and figure out what you're really trying to say, regardless of how many upvotes you have. And I guess right here, this guy does not like meta builds. I think honestly his real issue is people playing meta telling him to play meta, but I guess he thinks it's boring. Dude, when it comes to meta in this game, it feels very satisfying. It feels more satisfying to play meta in this game than other games. Sometimes I feel like meta in other games means like you basically just need to press one button over and over again. Like for example, like Elden Ring, like meta in that game is just, hey, do you have a weapon that has a strong L2? Okay, well, press that button over and over again until the boss is dead. I didn't like that. I sometimes, you know, obviously I want to mix it up a little bit here and there. But for this game, it really depends. Like, for example, like Pattern of Excellence for Sniper. Very powerful. Probably a meta perk. Yeah, it's definitely a meta perk for Sniper. But consider how fun using a bunch of Meltazard. That's not boring. That is not boring. Meta in this game, I feel like, is important, but it's also very fun. Like, honestly, if you're playing, like, heavy Plasma Incinerator, that's a very, very fun build, and it's very powerful. A lot of people think that's meta, and it's you know, definitely that impactful. I think if anything was to be called meta for the heavies, like weapon setup, I would go in between the heavy plasma incinerator and like the Melta maybe, but like the Melta still has issues with the ropes, and honestly the heavy bolter, still really, really good. So see those right there. When it comes to most effective tactic available, you have some options. So I think meta in this game is still, I think, pretty cool, to be completely honest, because I think there's more meta options in this game that also give you different types of gameplay. So ultimately, when it comes to, like, again, things like Pattern of Excellence or any of the equipment charge perks, it's just more fun to have more grenades. It's not really like, it's like Secure Stockpile, also pretty meta. It's just a very, very good perk that is very, very fun. So I think meta and fun in this game are a lot more, comparable than other games. Sometimes meta takes the fun out of other games, but not in this game. In my opinion, in this game, meta is done very appropriately. Hey, there's a lot of enemies, and enemies are very tough. What do you need? More grenades. Yeah, sounds about right. Synergy with Battle Brothers is so much more fun than soloing will ever be. I think it really depends on the experience you want, because I don't really think soloing would be boring. Like, to be completely honest, when it comes to being the last brother standing, it feels pretty exhilarating. Especially in something like Siege Mode. If you jump into Siege Mode alone, I have a hard time thinking you're going to be bored. Like, to be completely honest, it feels like it would be pretty intense. But still, like, I would rather be the last brother standing than jump into Siege Mode by myself, I guess. I guess it really depends on what you're looking to do. Like, honestly, this game it feels really good to, like, for example, sometimes, you can play heavy with the heavy bolt rifle, and, like, I had a Vanguard that had inner fire on our team for a Siege Mode. And I was having a really good time with it, because it kind of put me into a position to continuously spam the shield. And again, like, that's pretty much where playing with a team can be a little bit more fun than playing with solo, is just overall team synergy. You don't always get that. Sometimes you get teammates you would rather be solo, right? So this is more circumstantial. I think this is definitely based on the situation. But like, still, I think soloing is just as fun, but like, it really depends. Like, now when it comes down to the meta and soloing, I think if you're going to do solo, you should do meta, because that's definitely, like, being off meta, like dangerously off meta for solo, that doesn't sound very fun. If you were to jump into this game at like the most intense level, which would be like hard mode solo or something like that, you should definitely bring meta, because that is a situation that kind of calls for it. There's definitely a certain, like, difficulty limit that some people have. I feel like if you aren't comfortable or aren't interested in the difficulty or the challenge, it's gonna be really hard for you to, rise to the occasion. You need to enjoy what you are doing to kind of, explore the challenges, to see which ones interest you and everything like that. So I feel like if you are going off meta, having a bad time in solos, yeah, that could probably not be that fun. But I can imagine solos with meta, when everything's, exploding in your face and stuff like that. I feel like that's a lot more fun than people realize. But yeah, I totally understand where that's not like everybody's thing. Like, you don't want to use the same build too often, because then it can be a little bit repetitive. That makes sense. But what keeps that from being repetitive is challenges. So if you're playing meta, you're probably the type of player who is looking to do some solos and stuff like that. I mean, you can play meta within a team also. Trust me, if I'm on Absolute 2.0 and you have a really good build, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining, because I like bouncing off of good builds within Absolute 2.0. It's very fun to see what people bring. Not to mention, with prestige perks, things can be a little bit more interesting. Like, if you had a teammate on your team who is a heavy melee player, dude, playing with a melee heavy feels really good. They're going to do a lot of stomping. And then also, their team perks aren't going to be like unique. It's not like you're going to have strategic strikes on a melee heavy. They're probably either going to have Bonds of Brotherhood or Aegis or some extra ammo. So they're going to have a unique team perk to build around or to play around. And then if you're like, if you queue in with somebody who's playing like Assault, they have strategic strikes. Hey, if you're a Bulwark, that's pretty cool. I think that works extra well in Absolute 2.0 if you just spam some power rolls, drop your banner. Yeah, that's definitely going to be fun to bounce off of when you have 20% extra melee attack on on a Bulwark. So I think both these situations come with a unique feel that feels very good. But like, I would rather be the last brother personally. I'd rather be the last brother standing, helping us get over the hump to a victory, rather than jump into solo with a meta build. But that's only within the moment of what I'm interested to do now. Eventually, doing solos is probably going to be pretty intense, it's going to be pretty entertaining to do once you are, you pretty much got Prestige 4 across the board. You used all the, you leveled up all the weapons, you used all the weapons. It's going to feel more intense. It's going to feel more tempting to do solo challenges. I'm trying to use the word enticing, but I'm not too sure if I'm using that correctly. Basically, it's just going to feel better because it's going to be something new, essentially. Honestly, I find it kind of boring when you can just solo everything. Like, I build my classes in ways that feel fun to use. That usually leaves glaring weaknesses. All right. Don't purposely have glaring weaknesses, but I think what they're referring to here is the weapons they like to use probably have limits. My tactical, for example, is very good at dueling and very good at eliminating extremist enemies at close range. Oh, and long range. But that'll mean I'm less effective at extremist enemies that have harder to exploit weak spots or are very evasive. I'm a little bit confused here, but ultimately, if you can take out extremist enemies at close and long range, I'm not too sure how they're going to get away from you. But I'm aware of this, and I'm hoping that my team will support me in those cases because it's a team game, not a everyone needs to kill things all on their own game. And even though I aim for higher difficulties, I'm there to have fun, not play perfectly. Hey, you know what? You're probably in a really good position for Absolute 2.0 right now if you feel like you want to bring a build that excels at something, and you want to obviously use that quality to help out your teammate. Now, if your teammates bring, like, for example, this guy says he has a hard time to exploit weak spots. That means this tactical player would very much enjoy a sniper on the team, which honestly is pretty cool. It's just the idea of like, hey, man, my build right now is not doing this one thing correctly. We're definitely going to need some help within this area. And then, hey, guys, I have a build that can do that. Yeah, that obviously brings in a pretty fun back and forth team synergy. Yeah, 100%. That is something that's very satisfying to see. Again, with the heavy melee example, I feel like the heavy melee builds, obviously, unless they're using the heavy bolter. If you're using a heavy melee build with a Melta, for example, you too would also love to see a sniper on your team. Honestly, I just think that it just makes it a little bit more fun, where everyone kind of has a role to play. I like that. And now, I still don't think it's boring if you can solo everything. I still, just the only way this would be boring to me is if that's the only build you play. If you only play the one meta build, the one class, you never switch your prestige perks. Yeah, that could definitely get a little bit old. However, if you just continuously keep breaking your own limits, if you keep, pushing waves and you keep breaking the records that you had before, that's probably where the excitement comes from with playing meta over and over again. So I don't think playing meta is boring. I don't. I think even bringing meta into Absolute 2.0 is fine. But you have to admit, if you jump into a lower difficulty by yourself with meta builds, that's probably where it's going to be boring. I'm not too sure if meta in Absolute 2.0, especially solo, would really have any boring moments, unless you're just that good. Unless you're just that good. And then in that case, if you don't have any more challenge in the game, yeah, I can see that being boring. But in that case, if you have no more challenges, maybe jump into Absolute 2.0, maybe jump into Siege mode, help out some players. That can definitely be something that's a little bit interesting. Dude, again, Last Brother Standing for me is a lot more interesting than just jumping into a solo run. However, it really depends on what I am looking for. I've done solos in the past. I haven't done any true solos yet. I want to, but I have a feeling if I do true solo, I'm going to be using Purification on Sniper, Invigorating Icon, Bulwark, you know, maybe even Unmatched Zeal on a Vanguard, something like that, you know? So, I do like doing that stuff, but there's other things I want to try out first before I go back to doing that. However, I do admit, I do use Purification on Sniper quite a bit, and now, I don't think it reached the point where it's boring yet. However, there's definitely plenty of moments where I'm like, I kind of want to use something else than Purification, just because I use it a lot. But like the other options for Sniper there just really aren't that great. So I feel like I'm using Purification at this point just because it's kind of not only the better perk to use in that row, but it's also more fun to use than the other perks. I think the other perks are what? You get like movement speed during camo. That's cool-ish. And then it's squad. Dude, that last perk needs to be reworked. I feel like it's weird that we have squad renewal and then also another perk that does the same thing except just for the sniper. I think that last perk there probably could be adjusted maybe. I don't know. Squad renewal seems fine. Squad renewal gets the job done. I don't need a mini squad renewal. But yeah, that's why Purification gets used all the time, because the other two perks there just really aren't that interesting. But yeah, I guess let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this one. Do you think playing meta is boring? I have a hard time believing just being able to solo everything would be boring, but I think the challenges need to be, correctly, they have to be appropriate there. Because, yeah, if you jump into, like, minimal with a meta build, that's probably boring. But I have a hard time believing siege mode alone would be boring. I can imagine it would be very intense the entire time. But, yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. And thanks for watching.